Good day, everyone. Today I invite you to step into a world where myth and reality blur. A world where the familiar becomes terrifying, and where the boundary between human and beast begins to dissolve. We are here to explore one of the most enduring and haunting legends in human history, the werewolf. At first glance, the werewolf may seem like nothing more than a creature of horror, a monster that transforms under the full moon, prowls through forests, and hunts in the darkness. It is easy to dismiss it as fiction, something created to frighten or entertain. But when we look closer, when we truly examine the history, the meaning, and the persistence of this legend, we begin to see something far more complex. The werewolf is not just a monster. It is a reflection of human fear, a symbol of transformation, and perhaps most importantly, a mirror of ourselves. Origins: the first transformations. The idea of humans transforming into animals is one of the oldest ideas in human storytelling. It appears in cultures all over the world, from ancient myths to tribal folklore. Among these stories, one of the earliest recorded examples comes from ancient Greece, the story of Lycaon. According to the myth, Lycaon was a king who sought to test Zeus, the king of the gods. To do this, he committed a horrific act, serving Zeus a meal made from human flesh. Zeus, enraged by this act of cruelty and deception, did not simply punish Lycaon with death. Instead, he transformed him into a wolf. This transformation was deeply symbolic. Lycaon's actions were savage, immoral, and inhuman. By turning him into a wolf, Zeus revealed what Lycaon had become on the inside. This idea, that transformation reveals inner truth, is central to the werewolf myth. It suggests that the monster is not created, it is uncovered. The spread of the legend across cultures. As time passed, the idea of the werewolf spread across Europe and beyond. In France, the creature became known as the loup-garou. In Germany, it was called the werewolf. In Eastern Europe, variations of the legend appeared, often blending with local beliefs about spirits and curses. Despite these differences, the core idea remained consistent: a human being transforming into a wolf or wolf-like creature. Interestingly, similar concepts appear in cultures around the world. In parts of Africa, there are legends of were-hyenas. In Native American traditions, stories exist of shapeshifters who can transform into animals. In Japan, fox spirits known as kitsune are said to take on human form. These stories suggest that the idea of transformation is universal. Different cultures, same fear. The Middle Ages, when fear became real. During the Middle Ages, belief in werewolves became more than just folklore. It became reality for many people. This was a time of uncertainty. Disease, famine, and violence were common. Scientific understanding was limited, and many events seemed mysterious and unexplainable. In this environment, fear flourished, and with fear came accusations. There were actual trials in which individuals were accused of being werewolves. These trials were similar to the witch trials of the same period. People were accused based on rumors, strange behavior, or unexplained events. Confessions were often obtained through torture, and those found guilty were executed. Why did this happen? Because humans need explanations. When something terrible happens, when people disappear, when violence occurs without clear cause, there is a natural desire to understand why. In the absence of scientific knowledge, people turn to the supernatural. The werewolf became a way to explain the unexplainable. It became a scapegoat. The transformation, physical and psychological horror. At the heart of the werewolf legend is the transformation. This is what makes the werewolf unique among monsters. It is not a creature that exists independently. It is a human who becomes something else. The transformation is often described in vivid and disturbing detail. Bones breaking and reshaping, muscles stretching and growing, the body contorting into a new form. But the true horror of the transformation lies not in the physical pain, but in the loss of control. In many stories, the transformation is not voluntary. It happens against the person's will. Once it begins, it cannot be stopped. This loss of control is what makes the werewolf so terrifying, because it raises a deeply unsettling question. What if you could become something dangerous and not be able to stop yourself? The full moon, a symbol of inevitability. One of the most recognizable elements of the werewolf myth is the full moon. In modern stories, the full moon is often portrayed as the trigger for transformation. But this was not always the case. The connection between werewolves and the full moon developed over time, becoming more prominent in later folklore and popular culture. So why the moon? The moon has long been associated with mystery, cycles, and change. It influences the tides. It moves in predictable patterns. It lights the night in a way that feels both natural and unnatural. In ancient times, people believed the moon could affect human behavior. The word lunatic comes from the Latin word luna, meaning moon. The full moon became a symbol of transformation, a moment when hidden things are revealed. In the case of the werewolf, it reveals the beast within. At its core, the werewolf legend is about duality, the idea that humans have two sides. On one side, there is reason, control, and civilization. On the other, there is instinct, emotion, and impulse. Most of the time, these sides exist in balance. But what happens when that balance is broken? The werewolf represents that moment, the moment when instinct takes over, the moment when control is lost. This idea is not limited to mythology. It appears in literature, psychology, and philosophy. It reflects a fundamental truth about human nature, that we are complex and sometimes contradictory. In modern times, the image of the werewolf has evolved. In early films and literature, werewolves were often portrayed as tragic figures, victims of a curse, doomed to transform and harm others. A classic example is The Wolfman, where the main character struggles with a transformation he cannot control. But in more recent stories, werewolves are often depicted differently. They can be heroes, protectors, individuals who learn to control their transformations. This shift reflects changes in how we view power, identity, and control. The werewolf is no longer just something to fear, it is something to understand. The werewolf is not just a creature of horror, it is a symbol. It represents loss of control, hidden identity, fear of the unknown, the conflict between civilization and instinct. It allows us to explore these ideas in a way that is both engaging and meaningful. Why the legend endures. The werewolf has survived for thousands of years. Why? Because it adapts. It changes with time, reflecting the fears and concerns of each generation. In ancient times, it explained the unknown. In the Middle Ages, it represented fear and punishment. In modern times, it explores identity and transformation. Few myths are as flexible or as powerful. Conclusion: the beast within. In the end, the werewolf is more than just a legend. It is a mirror. It reflects something fundamental about human nature. Because the truth is, we all experience moments where we feel out of control. Moments where emotion overrides reason. Moments where we do not fully recognize ourselves. The werewolf gives those moments a form. It turns them into a story. And perhaps that is why it continues to resonate. Because it is not just about monsters. It is about us. So the next time you look up at the full moon, take a moment to think. Not about creatures hiding in the darkness, but about the stories we tell and what they reveal about who we are. Because sometimes, the most powerful legends are not the ones that frighten us the most, but the ones that help us understand ourselves.